Does your dog get jealous? The truth may surprise you. You're petting another dog, and suddenly, your dog appears. You hug your spouse, your dog pushes between you, you pick up your child, and somehow your dog wants attention at that exact moment. Coincidence? Maybe. But here's a question that starts arguments in dog-loving families everywhere. Can dogs actually get jealous? Or are we simply imagining human emotions where they don't exist? Because what scientists discovered may surprise you. Some dogs seem perfectly happy sharing attention. Others, not so much. And by the end of this video, you'll know whether your dog is truly jealous or reacting to something completely different. But first, think about your own dog. Who does your dog seem most jealous of? Another dog? Your partner? Your children? Or maybe your phone? Let me know in the comments. The interruption test. Let's start with something simple. Imagine you're sitting on the couch. Your dog is completely relaxed. Everything is normal. Then your spouse walks over. You hug them, and suddenly, your dog gets involved. Maybe they push their nose between you. Maybe they jump onto the couch. Maybe they place a paw on your arm. Or maybe they simply stare intensely, as if they're trying to understand what's happening. Now let's change the situation. You're visiting a friend. There's another dog in the room. You start petting that dog. Within seconds, your own dog appears. Coincidence? Maybe. But many owners notice the same pattern. The attention moves. The dog follows. The attention stays elsewhere. The dog gets closer. And sometimes, the dog tries to interrupt completely. That's why so many people describe this behavior with one word: jealousy. After all, it certainly looks that way. But before we jump to conclusions, let's do a quick test. The next time you're giving attention to someone else, watch your dog's reaction carefully. Do they stay where they are? Do they move closer? Do they quietly observe? Or do they actively try to place themselves between you and the other person? Because those differences matter a lot. Some dogs barely react at all, some become curious, and some seem absolutely determined to become the center of attention again. Now here's the interesting part. The behavior itself isn't the answer. It's the intensity of the reaction that tells the story. And that's exactly what researchers became interested in. Because if dogs aren't capable of jealousy, why do so many of them behave this way? And if they are capable of jealousy, what does that actually mean? The answer surprised even some scientists. And that's where our story gets really interesting. What scientists found. For a long time, many people believed jealousy was a uniquely human emotion. After all, jealousy seems complicated. It involves relationships, attention, competition, and emotions. But researchers wanted to know something interesting. What happens when a dog sees their owner giving affection to someone else? In one famous experiment, owners were instructed to interact with what appeared to be another dog. The reactions were fascinating. Many dogs immediately moved closer. Some tried to get between the owner and the other dog. Some pawed at their owner. Others nudged them with their nose. A few even attempted to physically interrupt the interaction. Not every dog reacted, but enough did to make scientists pay attention. And here's what makes this so interesting. The dogs weren't reacting to food. They weren't reacting to toys. They were reacting to attention. Something social, something emotional. Now that doesn't automatically prove dogs experience jealousy exactly the way humans do. But it does suggest something important. Your attention matters to your dog far more than many people realize. And when that attention suddenly shifts elsewhere, some dogs notice immediately. Which leads us to an even bigger question. Are dogs actually jealous, or are they simply competing for something valuable? Jealousy or competition? This is where things get really interesting, because what looks like jealousy may actually be something else. Imagine you're sitting at a table. Someone takes your favorite chair. You might feel annoyed. Not because you hate that person, but because something important to you is suddenly unavailable. Many behavior experts believe dogs may experience something similar. The dog may not be thinking, "I dislike that other dog." Instead, they may be thinking, "Wait, That attention usually comes to me. That's a very different idea. In other words, some dogs may not be competing against another dog. They may be competing for access to something they value: your attention, your affection, your interaction. And when viewed through that lens, many so-called jealous behaviors begin to make more sense. The interruption, the nudging, the pawing, the attempt to get between you and someone else. The behavior looks like jealousy, but underneath it may be competition for connection. The resource test. Let's try a simple experiment. The next time someone else receives your attention, watch your dog carefully. Not just what they do, but how quickly they do it. Do they remain relaxed? Do they casually observe? Or do they immediately change their behavior? Now ask yourself, what exactly is your dog reacting to? The person, the dog, or the loss of your attention? Because attention can be a resource. Just like food, just like toys, just like space. For some dogs, attention is one of the most valuable resources they have. And when access to that resource changes, their behavior changes too. That's why some dogs react strongly when another pet enters the room, or when a family member sits beside you, or when you're focused on your phone instead of them. The trigger isn't always the other individual. Sometimes it's simply the shift in attention. And that distinction matters.
Here's a quick question. Be honest. Who does your dog seem most jealous of? Your spouse? Your children? Or another dog? A cat? Or is it your phone? Let me know in the comments. I have a feeling the phone will win.
The baby effect. One of the biggest changes a dog can experience is the arrival of a new baby. Suddenly, everything changes. The schedule, the routines, the attention, the sounds, the smells. And for many dogs, it can be confusing. Some dogs adjust quickly, others struggle. Not because they dislike the baby, but because their entire world has changed overnight. The owner who once spent hours interacting with them is now focused somewhere else. The routines that once felt predictable suddenly disappear. And that's when many owners first notice behaviors that look like jealousy. More attention-seeking, more interruptions, more attempts to stay close. In reality, the dog may simply be trying to understand what happened to their routine. And that's a very important difference. When jealousy becomes a problem, most jealousy-like behaviors are harmless. A nudge, a paw, a request for attention. But sometimes the behavior becomes more intense. Blocking, pushing, guarding, growling, resource guarding around owners. That's when the situation changes, because now the dog isn't simply asking for attention. They're trying to control access to something valuable. And that's a behavior owners should take seriously. Not with punishment, not with anger, but with understanding, because behaviors that appear suddenly often have emotional causes underneath them. And identifying those causes is the first step toward helping the dog. The hidden emotion. Now for the biggest surprise of all, what if jealousy isn't the real emotion? What if the real emotion is uncertainty? Think about it. Many dogs aren't angry at the other dog. Many dogs aren't angry at the baby. Many dogs aren't angry at your spouse. They're worried about losing access to something important. Connection, predictability, security, your attention. And once you see it that way, the behavior suddenly looks very different. Less like jealousy, more like concern, more like uncertainty, more like a dog trying to protect a relationship that matters to them. So the next time your dog pushes between you and someone else, don't immediately ask, "Is my dog jealous?" Ask, "What is my dog afraid of losing?" Because those are two very different questions, and understanding that difference may completely change the way you see your dog. Now tell me in the comments, who does your dog seem most jealous of? I can't wait to read your answers below. And in our next video, we'll explore another behavior that almost every dog owner experiences. Why does your dog lick your face?